Hey there, welcome to Mike's Collection. I'm not sure what episode this actually is going to be. Just yesterday, I posted episode 173, and in that episode, I told you that I had recently made two orders from Super 7 to get some of their ReAction figures. So the first box of ReAction figures has arrived. I figure I would probably lump them both together into one video because I'm hoping the other box will arrive within the week. So I've got 5 figures in this box, 5 figures in the other box. So yeah, I can lump that all together, do a 10-figure review. However, it might take longer than a week. So in the meantime, I might post another video, which is why I'm not committing to a number for this particular episode just yet. So I just wanted to show you this box now, though, because I'm eager to open these figures. So let's take a look at what I've got in box number 1. So this package I ordered because of one exclusive. I buy most of my ReAction figures from Big Bad Toy Store, but every now and again I do have to buy directly from Super 7 because they have exclusive figures only available on their website. And this time around, it was this new Godzilla figure. So this, at least currently, is only available on Super 7's website. So you see he comes in this really cool kind of Japanese style packaging on the back. Very cool. Obviously I can't read any of this. But yeah, I'm going to pop this figure open. I think it would display very nicely, just pinned up on the wall like this with all these other ones. But as I've told you before in past videos, even these figures here, which look like they're sealed, I have sliced the side of the bubble so I can take the figure out, play with it, and then put it back on here for display. And that's probably what I'll do with all of these figures. Although, I've also told you before, I've got so many ReAction figures now, I simply don't have the wall space to display them opened or non-opened, one way or the other. So, yeah, these guys are definitely going to get opened. I'm going to try and keep the bubble intact so I can display them on the wall if I choose to. But otherwise, I might just keep these figures loose. So, yeah, there's Godzilla. And we'll talk a little bit more about each one of these figures once I've opened them up. But, yeah, I just wanted to make sure you guys saw the packaging before I screwed with it. Now, there's a new set. They just recently announced that they were releasing some Who Framed Roger Rabbit figures. So you can see you got Roger Rabbit, his wife Jessica Rabbit, then you've got the main bad guy, Judge Doom, and 2 of the Judge's henchmen. I think there was 5 weasels, but they've got 2 of them here. So I loved Roger Rabbit when I was a kid, and I actually just recently watched it again after the announcement of these figures to think, because my first instinct was, I kind of want to buy all these figures, but I'm like, well, am I just maybe remembering that movie a little fondly from my childhood? I hadn't seen it for many years. Anyway, so I threw in the DVD, I watched it again, and I think it holds up pretty good. So I still really enjoyed it. However, I did not pull the trigger on all the figures. I opted for just one, and I went with Jessica. So this is a great looking figure. It might be hard to see it on camera here, but you can see the dress here. It's got this very reflective metallic sheen on her dress and the packaging, so that looks quite nice. And the dress itself, it's also got this kind of, the sparkles are kind of baked right into the plastic there, and it's kind of like a translucent plastic, at least around her legs, where it kind of drapes down over her legs underneath. So yeah, that's kind of a see-through-y kind of plastic with that sparkle in there. It's very cool. So I might go back and get the other figures. I don't know. Maybe not all of them, but I feel I at least need Roger Rabbit and Smarty, the main weasel there. So we'll see. But Jessica, I couldn't pass on Jessica. And I've done reviews. I did a video not too long ago where I reviewed the entirety of the Wave 2 G.I. Joe figures. So you see here on the back of the packaging, all the different G.I. Joes. So I got the, Storm Shadow and, all these various trooper types, Bazooka, Duke. These were all new figures. But there was one figure in Wave 2 that I passed on, and that was this goofball here, which is the Game Master drone. It's like a robotic clown in a snow serpent outfit. And even though I remember the G.I. Joe cartoon very fondly, this is one of those characters that only appeared in one episode only for a few minutes really of screen time, and it just didn't really feel essential to my collection, especially at these prices. Like, these figures cost me about $25 a piece, plus shipping, so they're not cheap. But after I reviewed all those figures and opened them all up and fiddled around with them, I was like, man, I love these figures, and I couldn't leave any man behind. So I went back, and now I have ordered the Game Master drone. So the first time this character has ever been released as an action figure. He's goofy, but he's kind of fun too. And I haven't gone back and revisited this episode of the cartoon, but I've been meaning to ever since they announced this figure. So maybe I'll even do that tonight. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. And then the last two. A while back, Super 7 released these new paint variations of their Universal Monsters. Universal Monsters is one of the first ReAction figure licenses they started. So they've put out Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein, and they've released them in multiple kind of paint variations. Just last year they released them in these little glow in the dark variations in these very neon colors, these kind of day glow colors that were supposed to be reminiscent of the childhood, kind of dollar store plastic masks you would have worn for Halloween with the little string on the back. And sometimes the colors of the creatures were not film accurate, which would have mostly been grays and browns and stuff. So they added these bright colors. So when they put out those figures, they put out 4 of them. They put out the Creature of the Black Lagoon, the Wolfman, Frankenstein, and the Mummy. Now, I love all the Universal Monsters, but the Creature and the Wolfman are by far my favorites. So I ordered those 2, and I thought maybe I'll go back and I'll get Frankenstein and the Mummy later. So anyway, before I had a chance to decide if I was going to go back and get Mummy and Frankenstein, they took those same 4 figures. Instead of releasing them in little boxes like they did the first time around, they released them on blister cards, which I prefer because they're better for display purposes. And instead of the glow in the dark, they just went with regular plastic, but they really amped up those day glow colors. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy the other 2 characters in this style instead of getting the glow in the dark versions. So here you see the Mummy in his crazy color scheme. So the Mummy is usually pretty boring because his bandages are kind of white or off yellow, and then his skin is kind of gray. So rather bland to look at. But with this version, you get this really bright orange with these green splotches and then the blue skin. He's just really fun, and I think the packages really pop. The packages are one of the main appeals here. So yeah, really cool. On the back, you see the kind of masks I'm talking about that inspired these figures. So there is a Wolfman and a Creature available in this style, on this style of card. I did not buy those 2 because the color is so similar to the glow-in-the-dark versions I bought earlier. But again, I might still go back and get those 2 characters. In the same way I might still go back and get him in glow-in-the-dark. I don't know. But yeah, I think he looks great. And then the last one from my box today is the Dayglow Frankenstein. So he looks fantastic in these crazy colors. So he's got kind of a hot pink skin, blue jacket, green pants. The packaging just looks crazy with the pink skin, the purple hair. Just a lot of fun. Back of the packaging, the exact same as the Mummy. But yeah, I think these guys are great. And if any of these toys get displayed on the wall, it'll probably be these guys. I'm still going to open them up, but I'm just going to slice this side, tuck them back in there. And I think these cards really should be on the wall here to be displayed. These really need to be seen. So there you go. That is my ReAction figure collection that came in today. I don't know when I'm going to get around to posting this. Probably not for at least a week, because like I said, I'm waiting for my second package of 5 figures to arrive. So yeah, I guess we'll pick this up when those arrive. So hello again. So it's been about 2 weeks since I shot that opening bit, and I've been waiting patiently for the rest of my ReAction figures to come in from Super 7. As I mentioned earlier, I ordered these 2 packages of 5 figures each. It was about, I don't think it was a full week apart. At most, it was a week. I think it was maybe 6 days that I ordered these 2 figures. So when the first box arrived, I was expecting the second box to arrive shortly afterwards, and I thought I would lump them all together because I didn't know if 5 ReAction figures was enough to do a video about, so I thought I'll get 10 and I'll review those. Anyway, Days kept going by where I wasn't getting any sort of ship notification on my second shipment. So in the meantime, I went ahead and shot another video or two. So when I sat down to shoot this originally, I think it was going to be episode 174, but now it's going to be 176. But yeah, so after a while, I emailed Super 7 and I said, hey, this hasn't shipped yet. Is there a delay for some reason? And they wrote back and they just said, nope, your item is in the shipping queue and it should ship within a day or two. And I said, okay. And so then a week went by and I emailed them again and I said, hey, it's been a week since you told me it was going to ship in a day or two. Is there an issue? And they wrote back again and they said, nope, it's in the shipping queue. It'll ship shortly. And I said, okay. And then later that day, I get a shipping notification that they partially shipped my items. So they only put 4 of the 5 figures in the box and, with no explanation. So I don't know why. It's possible maybe they oversold one of these items. And so I don't know if they're going to put that in a box on its own later and ship that out to me. I'm kind of frustrated if I don't get that figure, like if they just straight up cancel and refund. But at the same time, I'm equally frustrated if they ship it on its own later, because I know they probably think they're doing me a favor, and maybe because I was emailing them, they're like, okay, we have 4 of this guy's figures, but we're missing 1. He keeps bugging us, so let's put those 4 in the mail, and maybe that'll shut him up. I already paid a flat rate for shipping from them, so even though they're going to be sending 2 shipments, Super 7 isn't going to charge me any more for the shipping of an additional box. So, I appreciate that. But what they don't realize is that I'm in Canada, and every time I order from Super 7, I get dinged about $30 at the border for customs. So by them breaking up my order, I was already kind of justifying the $30 shipment, the customs fee when I order these figures. And I kind of do the math in my head. I'm like, that's why I always order at least 5 figures from them. Like I mentioned with the Godzilla figure, I was really only wanting that Godzilla figure out of that shipment, but I had to find 4 other figures to justify it, because then I could say, okay, they're going to charge me $30 for shipping. I'm going to get dinged another $30 for customs. So that tacks $60 onto the price of this figure. So I can't pay, $25 for the figure and then another $60 on top of it. So I need to buy enough figures that I can kind of do the math and it makes a little more sense to me. So anyway, the fact that these 4 figures are in the mail and another one's coming behind it all by itself probably, that's a little frustrating. Anyway, I don't have any of the figures yet. They still have not arrived. But I figured I'm going to wrap up this video anyway, because I got some new ReAction figures that I bought locally. 4 new figures. So I figured, well, that's 9 figures. I'll just cover all those in this one video. And then when my other box arrives, I'll review those. So, as far as ReAction figures go, like if you watch my videos regularly, I've been buying quite a few of them. These figures have existed for quite a few years now, and I've been buying them little by little. But in the last 2 years or so, I've really been buying a lot of them, and my collection is growing by leaps and bounds. And most of them I have to order online. Some of them are available at local comic shops here, but they don't show up in stores. Like I know they sell ReAction figures in Target, but we don't have any Targets here in Canada. So, they don't sell them at Walmart. They don't sell them at Toys R Us here in Canada, which we still have. So I can grab them occasionally from comic book shops, but most of the time I just order them online. But anyway, the other day, Super 7 posted on their Instagram that they worked out a deal with Toys R Us here in Canada, and they will now be stocking their figures. And I was kind of curious. I was like, I wonder if they have any at my local Toys R Us. So I went to Toys R Us this past weekend, and they had a full 4-sided standee just full of Super 7 ReAction figures, which was awesome. I've never seen so many of them in one place before. It was each peg was the same figure, so it was about 8 figures deep, so you could flick through each one of them, and yeah, it was really cool. Now, some of the figures they had are ones that I'm not really interested in, like Xena, Warrior Princess, and Star Trek. Some of the figures they had, like Ninja Turtles and stuff, were figures I already have. So the only ones that they had that I was really interested in were the Universal Monsters. And I know I already talked about Universal Monsters in the first segment, so just to reiterate on what I said before, when ReAction figures first launched, they were actually produced by Funko, the same company that does all the Funko Pops. And Universal Monsters was one of the first sets of figures they put out. And I showed you a split screen earlier about what their packaging looked like. So this here is a Funko ReAction figure. So you see here on the back, you've got the Super 7 logo with the Funko logo, like they were done kind of jointly. And so when this series came out, you can see all the different figures that were available. I actually bought Wolfman, Invisible Man, the Mummy, and the Creature. Those were the only 4 I bought. Now, I am a big fan of all the Universal monsters, but at the time these figures came out, it was a relatively new fad. I didn't know if it was really going to catch on, if ReAction figures were just going to fizzle out and go away. Funko Pops were still coming out, and the Universal monsters had just kind of come out in Funko Pops. And I'd also bought some of these like 8-inch Mego dolls of the Universal monsters not that long beforehand. And so I thought, okay, I'm buying Universal monsters in all these weird different formats. Do I really need to buy every character in every format? So I didn't. I chose to buy certain characters in the various formats. So in this format, I did not buy Frankenstein or Dracula. Now, as the years have gone on and my ReAction figure collection has grown, I have kind of regretted not getting Dracula and Frankenstein, because those are arguably the 2 most famous monsters. Those are probably 2 of the better made Universal monster movies. So when Super 7 took on ReAction on its own, so I'm not sure exactly how that worked. Either they bought the full license from Funko or whatever, but Funko, as far as I know, is no longer involved, so now it's just Super 7. So Super 7 relaunched the Universal monster figures. They were different molds. They were very similar, but they had those packaging, which I just showed you, which are the big close-ups of the monster's face instead of the black and white still from the movie. And again, I passed on all those characters because I had the ones I wanted. And in the years since, I've now bought all these weird color ones. Like I just showed you, I bought a weird color Frankenstein and stuff, but I still didn't have the original Frankenstein in normal colors. So when I went to Toys R Us the other day, they had the Universal monsters from Super 7. So not the old school Funko black and white packaging, but they did have the first wave of Universal monsters with the close-up of the painted monster face. So here you see I have the first Frankenstein from ReAction from Super 7. And so this is the exact same figure. I'll do a side by side and you'll see them. But that pink one I just showed you, it's the same figure, just painted slightly differently. So it's kind of cool now that my only Frankenstein isn't some neon pink Frankenstein. It's nice to have a classic one that I can display next to him. So it might seem a little redundant. This is a little bit, I'm getting more Universal monsters these days than I have like my whole life. I just did a video the other day where I showed you my new werewolf, my new Wolfman action figure from NECA. Anyway, so Wolfman, I now have the Wolfman from Super 7 in ReAction style. This is now, I think, my 3rd, if not 4th, ReAction figure of the Wolfman in different variations. But I do like this classic kind of painted packaging. Looks very cool. And then I got the Creature from the Black Lagoon. So this is another cool one. I do love the Creature. I do have quite a few variations of the Creature in ReAction figure form, which you'll see in a second. But yeah, very cool. Back of the packaging is the same for all these guys. It shows all the various waves of figures. And then lastly, I have Dracula. Now this one I'm pretty excited about because I am a big Dracula fan. Like I love Bela Lugosi's portrayal of Dracula. I love the original novel. It's a great movie. And this is one of the ones where I actually like the remakes as well. Like I really loved Bram Stoker's Dracula by Coppola. So yeah, I'm just a Dracula fan. Nobody beats Bela Lugosi's Dracula though. And I did not have a ReAction figure of him at all. Like Frankenstein, I've now got the crazy color one. I have the Mummy. I have Invisible Man, Wolfman, Creature of the Black Lagoon several times over, but I did not have a Dracula. And for whatever reason, they seem to skip him when they do these crazy colored ones. Like they're not releasing pink and green Draculas for whatever reason. So yeah, I've been wanting to get this figure, but I just didn't know how easy it would be to track down. So to find it locally at Toys R Us for actually a pretty reasonable price, it was cheaper to buy it at Toys R Us than it was to buy it online or from one of my comic book shops. So yeah, great find, good score. I'm going to pop all these guys open. I'm going to just slice along the little bubble. And and we're going to take a look at them outside of the packaging. So let's do that right now. Okay, so let's first up take a look at that Godzilla figure. So, as you can see, based on this packaging it came with, they call this one the Marusan soft vinyl Godzilla. I don't know the history of this figure. I know that this is a mini reproduction of one of the earliest Godzilla figures released in, I don't know, the 70s, or was it even earlier than that, the 60s? I don't know. But like this looks like the kind of cheap kind of rubber Godzilla you might have bought in a dollar store. You know, it wouldn't come in a box or packaging. It would probably just be loose in a bin with a little elastic around its arm with a tag on it or something. But anyway, it's a cool figure. So even though it's based on a vinyl figure, which I imagine didn't have any points of articulation, this guy does have a few. So most ReAction figures have 5 points of articulation, which is usually their arms going up and down, their legs going up and down, and then most ReAction figures, their head turns. This guy's head does not turn, but he does have a 5th point of articulation at the tail. So yeah, it's a really nice looking figure. Like, it's kind of crazy to think that this thing, probably 4 times the size of this, probably would have cost $1 in a dollar store, but here I am paying $25 for a miniaturized version, like an homage to a cheap kind of dollar store toy or something. But anyway, that's toy collecting for you, I guess. Yeah, I really like it, and I'm glad I picked it up. I was worried this thing would sell out right away. It is still available to purchase on Super 7's website, so I guess it wasn't a big panic to go out and buy this thing, but I did, and I don't regret it. He's cool. And just for a little bit of a comparison, so Super 7 has previously put out a couple of other Godzilla figures. So here's the first one I got, which was also exclusive to their website. And this here, like this one, it's not based on any particular film appearance or anything. It's an homage, like a remake of an old toy from the 70s. So the first Godzilla figure was part of the Shogun Warriors line, and it looked like this kind of goofy Godzilla figure, and it had this tongue action. So that's what Super 7 gave us first, and then they repainted that a couple of times. Here's the same figure, but with glow-in-the-dark action, which is an homage to an old Godzilla model kit. So this is basically Super 7's Godzilla ReAction line thus far. It's kind of fun, but it's very niche. I'm looking forward to a point in the near future when they actually start making Godzilla ReAction figures based on the various movies, which is coming soon. They have shown their Wave 1 figures, which features a couple of Godzillas as well as some of his other kaiju foes. So I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on those. But in the meantime, this was kind of a fun way to get started on the Godzilla ReAction line. So next up, we're going to take a look at Jessica Rabbit. So I know I already showed you the packaging. Again, I just want to point out how nice that is with that really glittery, I don't want to say paint job, but just kind of the foil glimmer on that packaging. Looks really nice. She has one accessory here, which I didn't bother to haul out of the packaging, but it's a frying pan with Roger Rabbit's face smashed into it. That's from a scene directly in the movie when she conks her husband over the head with a frying pan to knock him out for his own safety. But yeah, here's the figure. I can't make her stand up because she's got very small little feet with little high heels. Now she does have holes in the bottom of her feet. So if you have some ReAction figure display bases, then you could probably get her to stand on those. But I have a few generic stands laying around and the pegs don't fit for her. So yeah, she's not going to stand up on her own. But anyway, here you see the figure. It's very nicely sculpted. It's definitely recognizable as Jessica Rabbit. I find with ReAction figures, they work really well for monsters, robots, things like that. But humans tend not to always translate very well into ReAction figures. And even though Jessica Rabbit isn't a real person, she was very tall and curvy, and I didn't know if that would really translate well to ReAction figures. But I think it does pretty good. Like, they captured the animated look quite well. And even in this kind of limited format, they were still able to kind of capture her curves a little bit. So it's a cool figure. One thing that is a little weird about it is the fact that she clearly has a dress on with a slit up the side, but in order to give her articulation, it's basically sculpted like she's wearing like a pantsuit. So it's a little bizarre. You can see here what I was talking about, where the plastic has these kind of sparkles, for lack of a better word, kind of right in the plastic. which is really nice. So it kind of catches the light and it kind of sparkles off of them. So yeah, it's a really nice figure, but I don't have a whole lot more to say about Jessica. Now here is the G.I. Joe Game Master drone outside of the packaging. So as I mentioned before, this is the one reject from Wave 2 that I passed on initially, but ultimately I decided to go back for him. So I haven't watched a lot of the episodes of the G.I. Joe cartoon since I was a kid. I own the whole series, but I do find it difficult to watch. I remember it very fondly, but they are pretty goofy a lot of the times. And now the episode that featured the Game Master, I remember that one. It featured a kind of a one-off villain known as the Game Master, and he kidnapped some members of G.I. Joe and Cobra. So it was Cobra Commander and the Baroness, and Flint and Lady J, and he brought them to his island where he put them through a bunch of kind of dangerous games for his own amusement. If you're familiar with the supervillain Arcade from the X-Men comic books, very much like him, in that Arcade captures the X-Men and he puts them in giant pinball games where they can get crushed by giant balls and stuff like that. So that's very much what the episode was like. So Flint and Lady J had to team up with Cobra Commander and Baroness in order to survive. And so I don't remember some of the specifics. So when I saw this figure revealed by Super 7, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I remember that. I seem to remember there being like toy soldiers and nutcrackers and stuff on the island trying to kill them. But I didn't remember super specifically about this guy. Anyway, after I shot that opening bit, I really did go and watch the episode. It was still fun, like it's very silly, but I still enjoyed it. But I was surprised by the amount of screen time this guy got. What I showed you earlier, I've since edited in as a split screen. That is the entire amount of screen time for this character. So what happens is Cobra Commander is up at his podium giving a speech, and then the way the Game Master traps him is a trap door opens up beneath the podium and he falls into a hole. And then Destro and the other Cobras are like, what happened? Where'd he go? And then you just see a bunch of snow serpents walking off inexplicably with a box and nobody really notices them. And then it cuts to the wide shot and you realize, oh, those aren't snow serpents. Those are actually drones and they must have Cobra Commander in that box. And the whole scene is about 4 seconds long. And that is literally the only screen time that you get with these guys. So he is dressed up as a Cobra Snow Serpent, and that's why he was supposed to, I guess, be able to sneak off of the Cobra headquarters unknown. But, you know, you might think, well, why not make them look like actual snow serpents then? If you could make robots that look this good, why give them big clown faces that make them obvious not snow serpents? So here's a couple of versions of some snow serpent figures that I had. Now, these guys aren't from the vintage line. These guys are from more like the early 2000s. But you get the idea of what the snow serpent looked like. He wore blue goggles on the top of his mostly white outfit, but he did have a lot of other painted details on the figure. So in the cartoon, every character's design was more simplified. So the snow serpents, I think, generally did look like this in the cartoon. They just had the white suits without all the painted detail. They had the goggles on top. But then their faces would have looked like this with a mask over top of it. So that's the thing. Like the Game Master could have very easily just sent in a robot with this mask and really could have fooled everybody. I guess it doesn't really matter because he was still able to get away with it with this silly clown. But, you know, whatever. I guess that's children's cartoons for you. So even though this figure lacks a lot of painted detail, like there's a lot of sculpted detail that they could have painted, like this fur could have been brown, like on this figure here. You know, they could have painted some of these buckles and stuff. But these figures are based on the cartoon, and as I mentioned, this is how snow serpents appeared in the cartoon, very plain, and so it works. And even though this figure is kind of stupid, and he only had about 4 seconds of screen time, I do find myself kind of drawn to it. I think it's kind of fun, and yeah, so it is what it is. I'm glad I can finally add this guy to my G.I. Joe ReAction figure collection. So now let's take a look at the Universal Monsters. So here is Crazy Neon, Frankenstein, and the Mummy outside of the packaging. So you can see there is some nice sculpted detail on this guy, like his face has got lots of wrinkles and everything. The paint job is very simple, so it doesn't bring out the details. Like if this was a, you know, say a 6-inch figure that was intended to be more detailed, they did a pretty good job of sculpting all the bandages. They would probably paint this white, put a nice wash over it, like so there'd be black paint to bring out all the details, all the wrinkles in the bandages. But that's not what ReAction figures are all about. They're going for very simple looks to kind of match the old Kenner style, like Star Wars figures of the 70s and 80s. So yeah, very cool figure. I like this paint job. It's fun. I don't really understand the splotches on him. Both this version and the glow-in-the-dark one had these big splotches. I'm not sure what that's supposed to represent, but you know, it is what it is. And now here's Frankenstein. Again, this guy's got a very fun paint job. You can see when he gets close to the light that like he comes completely almost washed out because these colors are so bright. That pink skin that my camera can't even really pick it up. It's just too much. So yeah, it is a really crazy colored figure. I love it. I think it's really goofy and it's just a lot of fun. Now here's my glow-in-the-dark Wolfman and glow-in-the-dark creature. So even though these guys are from separate series, they go together quite well. They're all pretty wild as far as the color goes. Now, as for Frankenstein, so even though he's brand new, and he was my only Frankenstein for about a week, I now have the classic Frankenstein. So here he is outside of the packaging. And so you can see that these guys are the same mold. You know, it's the exact same figure, just painted differently. This one, I'm going to say screen accurately, although it's kind of hard to know because the movie was in black and white. But these are kind of the traditional colors everybody's used to seeing Frankenstein in. That kind of green skin, black pants. And yeah, and then you got this crazy one. So it's fun to have these two different Frankensteins in my collection now. Now, before we move on to my other new figures, I do have another Mummy for comparison, but I only have that original Mummy that was released by Funko. So this is a different sculpt. So unlike the Frankenstein, because the Frankenstein I have is the Super 7 version, but this one here, this is the Funko version, so they did change the sculpts up. So you can see they're very similar, but they are different. And even though I'm opening up all my Universal Monsters now, I'm still choosing to keep these original Funko ones carded, at least for now. I might open them up eventually, but yeah, just because I've had them for so many years on the card, I'm a little reluctant to all of a sudden tear them open. But you can see how the Mummy is kind of a boring figure in his classic colors. So this guy here, you know, he really kind of spices things up with his wild color scheme. Now, next up, let's talk about the creature. So this is the brand new creature that I just got. So this is based on the original Creature of the Black Lagoon movie. Now this sculpt should be the exact same as this sculpt, but you can see how different they are with the different paint job. You know, they look like they could be different figures, and I can't actually say with 100% certainty that they didn't sculpt some new parts. They look so similar, but I don't know, the paint jobs make them look different enough that, I don't know, maybe it is a new head or something. I can't even really tell. I imagine it's the same sculpt, but they look pretty different. Now, I actually do have the original Funko version as well. So I wanted to keep this guy on the card. And these figures I have pinned up on my wall. And I went to take them down for this video. And when I picked this guy up, the bubble just fell clean off. So the glue has just completely eroded. So even though I didn't think I was going to be able to open this figure to show you for comparison purposes, I guess... Whoops. So as I was saying, even though I didn't think I was going to be able to show you this figure outside of the packaging for comparison purposes, I guess I can now. So this is also based off the original Creature of the Black Lagoon movie. But this is the sculpt by Funko, and this is the one by Super 7. So you can see that these guys are different sculpts. I think this one is my preferred sculpt. I wouldn't have necessarily known it unless you hold them side by side, but this guy actually looks kind of goofy when compared to this one, I think. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the creature, so I don't mind having a couple different versions of him. These guys, the paint job is pretty different. Both green, both supposed to be based on his actual appearance. Damn it. But there you go. Now I do have a couple other creatures I can show you as well. So I have another creature figure. They did make one off of the second Creature of the Black Lagoon movie, and that was called, I think, Revenge of the Creature. And the figure is basically the exact same as this one, except he has handcuffs, like shackles on his hands. And that wasn't enough of a difference for me to go out and buy that version. But then they did a creature figure based on the third movie, which was called The Creature Walks Among Us. And that's where he grew lungs and was able to walk on land. And I do have a figure of the creature from that movie. So this is him in his crazy kind of yellow pajamas. So there's yet another creature. Then I have a few more. So these are all ones that I got this past year from Super 7. Again, the packaging and everything, these are all throwbacks to old Creature from the Black Lagoon figures from like the 70s. And here's another one that looks like an old aquarium toy. So why don't you give me a second. I'm going to pop all these figures out and we'll take a look at them. Okay, so here you see my full army of Creature of the Black Lagoon figures. So this is where you can see that collecting is a sickness, ladies and gentlemen. I can't stop buying these things. I just love the creature. And they keep making weird and wonderful variations of him, and I'm probably going to keep buying them until they stop making them. So yeah, really cool. I love having all these different versions of the creature. So one of the other new figures I got at Toys R Us was the classic Wolfman. So the only Wolfman I had outside of the packaging previously was this glow-in-the-dark one that I picked up a couple of months ago. So these are the exact same figure, just with a different paint job. So as much as I love this crazy one, I am glad to get this one here in just kind of his classic Wolfman colors, because the Wolfman is my favorite of all the Universal monsters. Now besides the glow-in-the-dark one, I do have the original Funko one still in the card. So we'll do a little side-by-side here. Now again, you can see these figures are similar but different. So the head sculpts are quite a bit different. You know, the shirt, the belt, the pants is all similar. But this guy here, you'll notice he's very flat-footed, the guy in the packaging. Whereas this one here, he's got more of a, his feet come up more like an animal's feet. So those are different as well. So they might look like similar figures at a glance, but they are actually completely different sculpts. So, and yeah, I'm really not sure what is screen accurate for the Wolfman. I talked about this a little bit in my recent review of this figure here, which is NECA's Wolfman figure. So you see he's got a green shirt and brown pants. Here I have him with a green shirt and blue pants, and there he is with kind of a blue shirt and brown pants. So who knows? Who knows what color he actually wore in the movie? But I think this guy's pretty great. And there's been many times in the past where I've thought about opening up my old Wolfman figure just so I can play around with him. So I am glad to have a Wolfman in his classic colors, finally. And then I also have my last new figure to show you is Dracula. So here is Bela Lugosi's Dracula outside of the packaging. And this guy's really great because obviously these guys are all great characters and they stand on their own. I always kind of felt that Dracula was kind of the leader of the Universal Monsters, we'll say. And again, that might stem from my my love of the movie The Monster Squad from when I was a kid. I talked about that movie a little bit in my Wolfman video. But that was a movie from the 80s where all the old Universal Monsters got together and they were kind of led by Dracula. So that movie alone has kind of put him in a leadership role. Plus, he probably is the most famous of all the Universal Monsters. There have been the most adaptations of Dracula. You know, there's lots of books and comic books and movies, and, you know, he's everywhere. Everybody knows who Dracula is. I can't say for certain everybody knows who the Creature from the Black Lagoon is. Anyway, this is a great figure. I don't think it necessarily looks like Bela Lugosi, but it definitely looks like Dracula. You know who this is when you see him. I love the little vinyl cape. So it's black on the outside, red on the inside. This is exactly what you would expect to see on those old Kenner Star Wars figures. Like I remember my old like Obi-Wan figure had this robe that was kind of made out of this same material. And I believe it's similar to the Remco Dracula that came out. I think me and my brother had the Remco Dracula when we were kids. I don't remember actually having the figure. I would have been so young, but I think we had the cape kind of floating around our like toy collections for many years after we probably either lost or destroyed the Remco Dracula figure. So anyway, it's really cool to finally get Dracula again and to add him to my collection. So yeah, really cool stuff. And I guess I'll just bring these guys out here to complete the package. I still don't have all the Universal monsters, but this here is the Mummy in his, I guess, post-Mummy look. And this here is Igor as well. So there's still a couple other monsters in this collection that I haven't picked up yet. But yeah, I love the collection so far. I think these guys are awesome. Okay, so that is my review of my latest reaction figure purchases. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button. And please leave me comments below. I will definitely reply, and I appreciate, all the feedback. Anyway, if you enjoy reaction figures and you enjoy my reviews of them, stay tuned because I actually have 2 more boxes of reaction figures coming. Since I shot that first segment and was complaining about, my one box that's held up, I have since ordered a second one, and that's in the mail too. So by the next time I do a reaction figure video, it probably will be another 10 figures or so. Anyway, so yeah, stay tuned for that, and I might be back with other videos in the meantime. But thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Ciao.